I'm Georgianne Vincent. I'm the director here. And let me tell you, this is the best place in the world to work. And we work with the best people. Today, in the paper, the Creative Loafing were accolades to the Art Center for the exhibits that we do. Of course, it's all my idea. Now, why do we have such phenomenal exhibits? Catherine Herman, our curator. I want to say thank you to everyone. This exhibit was made possible by all of the wonderful people that give to our giving clubs. So each and every one of you has assisted us in making this the best place in the world, right, John Hubbard?
Yes, ma'am, it is the best place.
Right. I am going to ask Catherine to make a few introductions of, like Anne, our assistant curator, and Chris. I'll hand it over to Catherine. What I do is I like to say, thank you. Where's Mr. Kim? Thank
Are you breaking things?
Breaking things. Oh, thank you.
And I don't have to
Was it just me?
Okay, I can do it. Let's see. Thanks, Ken. Hey, that's better. So I will echo Georgianne's sentiment, and that is thank you, thank you, thank you. Great to see everybody. Welcome back. To those of you who only come to be with us in the winter, glad to have you back, and I'm sure you're thinking you probably should leave breadcrumbs to make sure you can find your way through the new digs, because it's pretty great. Tonight we, for the first time, have, since summer that is, where the kids showed their murals in the Rossi Gallery that our dear friend Mark Fox and wonderful patron dedicated to Mr. Rossi and his wife Pat. Tonight, the black and white exhibit is held in part in that new gallery. And as you see the facility growing, one of my great joys to announce tonight is, and you may know that our staff is growing after all these years. We are taking on new collaborators, new energy, new thinkers, new people who will help us make great things happen for the community. And one of those is Chris Rank-Carter, who is joining us as the new Director of Adult Education, which I have done for the last, however, 13 years. And Chris, come on up. She comes so equipped and on fire. Someone who grew up in our community, whose family taught here. She got married here. She's has a very dense background in museum work and curatorial work, programming, most recently at St. Pete College. And I will just let you say a few words if you'd like.
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that. It's so nice to see you all. I've been trying my best. I started last Monday, so I've been trying to visit the classes and get to know everybody's faces. And I'm just so pleased to be here. And this is really all truly coming full circle. And I'm just so pleased to work with such special people. So thank you all. I look forward to talking with you all and talking about how we can collaborate and do things in the community and just make this an even more exciting place than it already is. So thank you.
One of the artists here today in one of the galleries, I was introduced to by Chris, who was our guest curator for the last 2 years for Contain It. Coming up again on March 6th and 7th, Trashy Treasures and Contain It. Sure to be great again. But Chris introduced me to Nathan, who had a very intriguing installation called the Spolek Collective, and it was a group of dads who, artist dads who were home caring for the kids, and he can speak more to that if he'd like, but that was my introduction to Nathan. And I had the great fortune of meeting when her family was, at the time, before you moved to St. Pete, they found the art center, they sniffed it out, and the creators find the good places to be. So we met one night, and there was an uncanny affinity between Ya's work and Nathan in their ways of working, and I would say sensitivity and ways of articulating their motivation for art making. So we'll hear more about that. And I'm very pleased to have Lotus Turner here tonight, whose work I was introduced to. She's here from Nashville, and we're here in the gallery with her work. She was living in New York for 12 years and now recently has returned home to Nashville. And I saw her work for the first time as you know, Georgianne has been kind enough to send us to Art Basel for many years now. And this was a couple of years ago. I saw this just lively little piece that just, show my work, pick me. And so I tucked that away, and when the time was right, and Lotus was gracious enough to accept, so here we have her with us, and it's really an honor. So Ya and Nathan did an installation together. I should say that Ya is an instructor at UT. She's also an instructor at St. Pete College. And all three of these artists have a very interesting exhibition history, educational history that hopefully they can share more with us how they got to where they are. Now the fourth artist tonight, he's very shy. He's not here yet. He is someone very dear to me that I've known for 30 years. And I met when I was a young artist in art school. And he was the first artist I knew who was making a living from his art, painting every day. At the time he was occupying a vacated dance studio in what is now in Tallahassee, a very posh governor's club. It was renovated, years ago, but at that time it was just sort of a vacant, raw space. And so he was tremendously inspiring to me in all ways, in my own aesthetic and the cultivation of my sense of design. So a very important person to me, that's Jeff Christ in the Center Gallery, and he will be here later, and you can ask him questions, and he will answer. I will make sure. We could hardly drag an artist statement out of him, so it's very minimal in the gallery there, but I hope that I can put everybody together with him later. So without taking up too much more time, we're going to have Ya and Nathan go first, and then we will have Lotus speak. So who wants to go first here? Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry. With many thanks to all the black and white artists, everybody who submitted work for the black and white, just always love that element of our exhibition series that our artists here, students, members, faculty participate in our ongoing shows. So thank you guys. Here is Nathan Beard and Yala Ford.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. First, huge thank you to Dunedin Fine Arts Center, staff and volunteers, especially Catherine Bergman, Ken Hannon, and Georgianne Bissett, and Anne Feldschut for all they have done for us in the past about a month, I guess, of planning. So I just, to begin with, I'll just go through a short kind of bio. My wife and I moved here from Denver, Colorado about 4 years ago. And I actually grew up on a dairy farm near Buffalo, New York. And have made my way out west and have worked as a cowboy out west in Wyoming. At one point, I lived in Egypt for a year, so there's a couple of paintings that you'll see in the gallery that reference that experience. I have a bachelor's of fine art and painting from Colorado State University, which is in Fort Collins, which also happens to be the place I was born, so I kind of made a full circle. And that idea of full circle and returning and emerging plays a very, very large part in my work, and you'll see that in the work, very repetitive, kind of returning back to a place of origin. That also plays a big theme, is a big theme in our show together. The series of work that I'm showing here is entitled Exit Music. This series is titled this because exit music is the music that is played as you're leaving a theater or leaving a movie. I was drawn to this because metaphorically it spoke a lot about leaving any kind of situation. And there's a lot of complicated emotions that go along with leaving. It can be happy, it can be sad, you can have a lot of memories, but also a lot of hope and joy as you move into the future. And so there's a lot of choices that you have to make in this time. It's a very, what's called a liminal experience, where it could go either way, everything's kind of up in the air. And then most importantly for my work is the emergence out of those choices, and the attitude that you apply to your choice, and the attitude, how that attitude affects your life after your emergence from any of these kinds of situations. To begin with, I think we were really interested in talking. I know a lot of people have been interested in the color that Jan and I chose for the walls in our gallery. You'll notice that it's a sort of vibrant, dark purple, which is an odd color, we know, for a gallery showing. Normally they're white walls or gray walls or something like that. The reason we chose this color is because of the color purple has a very interesting history. For those of you who don't know, it has always been relegated to emperors or royalty or to the priest class, and I'm speaking specifically about the Mediterranean region, the Middle East region. And it was made from a type of shellfish in the Mediterranean, and they had to basically extract the pigment from the shellfish, and it would have to be boiled and so on and so forth for a couple of months, and it took 10,000 of these things to make one robe for the Caesar, for example, which is partly why they're almost extinct now. The color purple also brings up a lot of ideas for us, with the color purple being on the very end of the spectrum, the visible light spectrum, where after purple it moves into things that we can't perceive, ultraviolet rays, gamma rays, etc. And so purple is right on the cusp of the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown. Purple also happens to be, especially for my work, important because in astronomy you have a thing called redshift and blue shift. Blue shift referring to things that are going away, coming towards us, and redshift referring to things that are going away from us. And so when we mix blue and red, we have purple. And so this is another big metaphor in my work where you have this kind of coming together of things that are actually going apart. So I think we'll move on to Ya and wanting to talk about light and illumination.
Thank you, Nathan. First off, I want to reiterate our gracious and gratitude to the Zenith Fine Arts family and for all our viewers. Without our consumers and viewers who really appreciate art, we could not be here today. So thank you. I am going to kind of read, because I tend to be a talker, as you can kind of tell, and I want to make sure that I keep time. And I'm going to start. I'm interested in the metaphysics of space and time and how objects change and the perception changes when we move around space. As a first-generation Jamaican, I was born in Bronx, New York, and moved to Miami, Florida at an early age. I spent considerable time in Jamaica, Washington, D.C., Houston, Texas, Dunedin, St. Petersburg, and New York. I earned a bachelor from Florida State University, a law degree from the University of Florida, a master's of fine arts from Boston. And as Kathy mentioned, I'm a professor at University of Tampa and at St. Pete College. And these transitions between countries, between economies, between the nuances of language and culture have developed for me an understanding of the visual world, its potential for limitations, and its potential for resilience. I invest in these nuances to find a critical space which pushes past complacencies to modes of resistance and the presence at the moment. I consider myself an interdisciplinary artist, embracing paint, installation, video art, and murals. At the heart of my practice is exploring human interconnectivity, evidence, negative space, positive space, metaphysics, obsession, and manipulation, as you'll see in my space, in our space. I consider myself a hunter and gatherer. I hunt to find large spaces, areas, and canvases to arouse a reflection of an image of the unseen in this search for a universal language. In between my obsessive marks mirror my need to disseminate and transmit humanity's unseen experiences within layers of interconnecting lines that are echoed of a diverse but shared account. I intertwine my legal background of gathering evidence and items, dust, and things lived with an attempt to create my own paper, fabric, paint, etc. Illuminated silence is the theme of our exhibit. It's a theme of emergence. About us and about our space, illuminated silence is then about searching and finding, and the perplexing interplay between the two. It's about the constant cycle of diving into silent depths, only to be bathed in light as one surface for air. Our lines through space act as a metaphor for tendrils of inquiry, leaping from nests of accumulated knowledge to explore dark, vast, uninhabited space. Their search for tendrils find Nathan's paintings, each of which stand as a singular emerging from a sea of possibility, not to their own, but because we're being sought. In particular, my installation, I named it Between the Lines, arouses reflection of an image of the unseen and searching for transcendence, shrouded in dark serenity. Using the contrasting gold elements illuminates the metaphorical journey and stimulates understanding, peace, and oneness. My installation seeks to mirror my need to disseminate my trip to transmit humanity's unseen experience within layers of interconnecting lines that echoes this diverse but shared account. Thank you.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Yes? Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much to the Dunedin Fine Arts Center for having me and having my work here. Especially thank you to Catherine. And I'm so happy to be in your company in this beautiful building. And thank you all for coming here tonight. This might sound weird, but I'm happy for my works too, to be in a room full of people. You know, it can be a lonely process, you know, making a piece of artwork. Sometimes you're in charge, sometimes the piece is in charge, and they really become alive when people other than the maker are there to see them. So, you know, for better or for worse, thank you just for being in the room and migrating over to the other rooms too tonight. I want to talk a little bit about the big, I write down notes and then I just sort of toss them on my back and never look at them. But I want to talk a little bit about the big picture of my work and how I arrived at making this kind of work, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the connections that these works have in this show and why it's called compensation. The big picture of my work is that when I make these and when I look at these, I think of them as paintings. So in my crazy mind, even though there's very, very, very little paint in them, and some of them do have a little bit, they're all paintings to me. So I studied painting in school at Boston University, actually. Any other BU grads in the room? Just us? Okay. But I studied painting in school, and after I graduated, I decided I needed a break from the medium. But like many artists, I think you fear if you quit making something, you very well might shrivel up and die. So you can't quit making, you have to make something. So I wanted to take a break from painting just because I had lost sight of I lost track of my own voice in my work after having so many people boss you around and second-guessing yourself. It's a wonderful part of going to art school, but it does get to you in the end. So I wanted to take a break from painting. And I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee before I moved to New York, and I started to dabble in mixed media, and then it became more like a mission in mixed media to think about what different things I can use and how can I transform them into vehicles for my ideas. And the type of materials that I gravitated to were all gender-based materials, or specifically things that connected to or described women's work. So I started with wax paper out of my mom's kitchen drawer. And I became just, I was romanced really with the transformational possibility of this very mundane material. How do you take something imprecious and make it precious? How do you take something flat and turn it into something sculptural? It really reflects light well. There were just so many things that started to unveil about this material that I wanted to find other things. And so I had this mixed media journey for about 12 years of looking into materials that were somehow connected to, could be domestic roles or beauty wares, how do we adorn ourselves as women, what are traditional jobs we have in culture or in the home. So I worked with wax paper, I worked with pantyhose that I turned into chocolates, I made fake eyelashes out of my MFA diploma. I mean, I really went through it. And I guess about that one, my parents weren't that excited about. But eventually I started to work with textiles, specifically quilts. And these things come to you, and you come to them, they come to you. Like I said, sometimes you're in charge, sometimes they're in charge. But I started to collect or inherit scraps of handicrafts that were made by other women and other generations of women too. So often things that were damaged or unwanted, and I got to give them sort of a new life. I don't know if it's the life they were, certainly it's not the life they were intended for when they were made, but I love the idea of making contemporary heirlooms, of using the old to make the new. And very much like making a quilt, it doesn't matter what you make as an artist, it's still a measurement of your skill and a showcasing of your skill, a measurement of your time, and a documentation of really the times in which you live. So I became just really interested in working with textiles, and I started to think about everything as a quilt. And I still do in my crazy mind. I think these are all paintings and they're all quilts too, if you think about a quilt as a concept. And so 12 years I was developing this sort of palette of feminine materials, and I really wanted to get back to painting. And I was far enough along where I couldn't just drop everything, and I had a relationship to all these materials, and I wanted to challenge myself with synthesizing this palette of mixed media materials with the practice of abstract painting. So how can I turn a piece of ribbon into a brush mark? How can I turn part of a blanket into a splotch of color? How can I turn, a wadded up piece of a bed sheet into a color field or something like this? And that's really been it's been a wonderful adventure and sort of this challenge that has kept me very stimulated for the past 6 years. And I'm sure the work will change, the work will evolve, but I feel very much this is, the work that I was meant to do. So that's the big picture of my work and how I arrived with these. Just about the process of these, they're all hand sewn onto either canvas or hand woven foundation. So the regular ones are mostly soft, where I weave these ropes, which are essentially friendship bracelets that I learned how to make in camp, from just upcycled materials, things that are given away or given to me. So I make these weavings, or I work on canvas. It just kind of depends depends on what I have around and what the needs of the pieces are. So the title of the show is Condensation. And I mean, at the most basic level, yes, all of these works have a relationship to water, but there are about 3 different ways I interpreted condensation. And it's really interesting for a lot of reasons to hear about your work, and as different as all of our shows are, there are just always some underlying themes, you know, and how you connect the subject that you do. But with condensation, it's the process of vapor becoming water. And if you think very big picture just about the creative process, I think for anybody, you know, it's about making the invisible real, about turning your ideas into an object, or turning the invisible into something visible. And just as a parallel concept, you know, condensation really made a lot of sense to me, just about being an artist and how hard it is to have the confidence to decide what is worth bringing into the world, you know. And I also think that just given the state of our environment, the responsibility we have of what is worth bringing into the world. I mean, I've made lots of bad decisions in that area, I think we all have, but just condensation as a creative process to me was really interesting to think about. And then also that it's a transformative process. It's a change of state, right? From vapor to water. And whatever medium I'm working in, you know, now or when I was working with wax paper, it's all about the transformative possibilities. And how can I use a material in a way that the viewer sees it as something else? Or maybe not something specific, but something that isn't dependent upon its original function or association. And then condensation, I mean, yes, so these works in some way are all about water too. All of the textiles are linked to types of decoration. So I'm interested in how we decorate ourselves, how women decorate themselves, and also how we decorate spaces for rites of passage. So it's about, you know, changing states of being and changing, you know, transformative states of these materials too. So I take these decorative elements from hair ribbon to flowers that I make out of t-shirts or pillowcases, and I partner these very beautiful elements with dark or destructive agents in order to create a moment of change or an active composition. So, you know, the works in the room all come, you know, from kind of different themes and different stories. They all do connect with water, but, I mean, yeah, they all do connect with water, but water isn't the only force that I use to activate my work. And I mean, this all happens in my head. They're abstract pieces. You don't have to be able to identify these things. But I'm really interested in, you know, yeah, just creating states of change and trying to move these pieces into a new place from their original association. And I do that a lot of times by extending the stories of tragic heroines, for example. These 2 pieces here are about Ophelia's afterlife. So what happens after she submerges into the swamp or into the river. So, and they're imagined, you know, this is all what happens afterwards, so where Hamlet leaves off. But this one, the gray one, is called Primrose Path Engulfed in Smoke. And then the other one, which happens after her dress catches on fire and she goes down below, is called An Underwater Encounter with a Burning Tree. So they both, you know, have references to water, but they're also about her in this afterlife. These other large pieces are much more directly related to water. The one with the large blue shape in the middle is called Precipitation, and then the one on the right is Storm System. And then the other large one is called Storm, and it's about an imagined storm, so a storm in a fairy tale, essentially. A sort of a wicked storm in a beautiful place. So I don't want to talk too much just so you can ask everybody questions. But again, I'm thrilled to be here and thank you for your time and interest.
So I think you fixed this, didn't you, Dan? So this is the time of the night where you get to ask questions of the artist. So if I can help facilitate that, does anybody have any questions? Joan.
I'm very curious. I'm a painter myself, and so I react very strongly to the way you work. And I see connection with painting, obviously. And I love fabric, and I have worked with it earlier. But are those things loose, or you mentioned stitching them down? They don't look stitched. How do you keep them? How do you keep them the same when you move them back and forth or ship them?
Such a good question. Does this work? I can be loud too. I'm so glad you don't see the stitches. If you get close up, you will. I was never taught how to sew properly. They're all done by hand, so that is definitely, they're well made, but the stitching is not invisible. And also the human fingerprint to me in our work, I think, is really important. I want people to be able to see the stitches and see if they're handmade, although I really feel you can't see them too. So transit, you're just like, shipping in general, just for an artist, it's just the worst. It's the worst. It seems like everything that could go wrong usually goes wrong, and there's so many middle people. But we were saying earlier that, your job, you got to take care of your work on your end. And I always worry about how these will travel because they're volume and they need to be fluffy, for lack of a better word. So it's my responsibility to maintain that. And I'm always blown away by how well they travel. It doesn't make sense to me, but they do. A couple of these have traveled even internationally, and they still look great. But what I do is I stuff them with clean plastic bags that I think of as curlers. So I sort of stuff them with these plastic curlers so they still have volume, and then I just pull them out. And I bring a steamer just in case they get wrinkled, but I only have to steam like 2 or 3 of them in the show. The rest just came out looking the way that they did in the studio. Maybe I've survived enough shipping disasters that luck is on my side when it comes to packing. I don't know, but.
Well, Ann and I can speak to how magical it was. These monumental boxes came in, and how nice it was to have Vadis come and help us, and we saw her whole method, and the show went up so easily. We were all 3 elated, and the same with Yacht and Nathan. For Ann and I, we never had this much help. we were just in heaven this go round. So yes, it was quite a thing to see how these how they arrived and how they look now. And if you're on Facebook, you can see a little video that Ken posted of Vadis using her steamer, making her ribbons, looking good. So it's pretty cool. Who else? Another question.
Where did all the ribbons come from?
I had a wonderful residency last summer when I was living in New York at a great organization called Materials for the Arts. And it's a huge warehouse that's open to educators and nonprofits and individuals and businesses. They just donate it by the pallet. I mean, not just fabric, but I mean, like 200 white plastic lobsters from Tommy Hilfiger. You just never know what's going to come in. And as their artists in residence, I got to just take all the trimmings and fabric that came in. So a lot of it is thanks to the generosity of that program. And then a lot of it is, retired things that we have. I dye things. I can, you make do, but I try and upcycle as much as I can.
Anybody else? And are you hearing okay, or do you want everybody to use the mic?
Question for that is, how do you go about choosing your colors? How do you arrive at the different color schemes?
Well, it all starts with the idea. It all starts with whatever idea I want to investigate, and then I start making piles of colors and working out the palettes just with different piles, and then I make drawings, and it's not a very, it's a loose kind of wild process, but it's really just kind of picking and choosing from different piles and making these sort of haystacks of color. I don't know, that's just kind of how it happens. Sometimes I look at the piles and I think they look better than the pieces. How do I just keep this?
Is anybody else? Yes.
Just wanted to ask some highlights of what the experience was like developing exhibits
It was pretty easy with Ya. I feel like I spent a lot of time in the studio, and I know that Ya spent a lot of time here because she did a lot of her work in the space. But we did communicate a lot, and I think part of the reason Catherine may have put us together is we have a sort of similar spirit. It's hard to nail down what that means, but it was really easy. The decision making that we made was very easy. Also, it was not difficult.
It was kind of natural. We got in the space, and of course, my compulsion took over. It did not stop till the day we left, and it was an interesting process of. First off, it was nice to work in the new building, so that was pretty awesome, and working out all the glitches and going around. Thank you to Catherine for providing us everything we needed. It worked out well. It was great. Thank you very much.
Did either of you learn anything about each other new in this process?
Well, we never met before this, so everything we learned was new. In fact, we've known about this for a while, and we've been working on it together. And I went to Colorado for 2 weeks and was just sort of missing in action, really. And we had a radio interview Wednesday night this week, and I think I learned about half of what I know about Ya at that interview. A lot of stuff. It's been interesting how well we've worked together without really knowing each other, and I think that says a lot about our exhibit, the concepts in our exhibit, and also our individual practices as artists, kind of where we're coming from. That despite gaps between people, these kinds of things can be easily bridged with the spirit of camaraderie. So.
I learned that we shared the habit of perfection, and that he doesn't want to be a cowboy after going to Cairo. And I learned that working together was essential in having a successful exhibit. So it was brilliant working with Nathan.
Anybody else? Good questions. How many people are in the black and white show here? Raise your hand. Yes, fantastic. Anybody else? Joan?
Let me just say that I haven't seen, I don't know what your work looks like, so it's a little harder for me to, it's easier because we are surrounded by that as work.
Well, there's 2 hours left.
I know.
I will not take it personally if you guys take for running out.
Well, we kept everything under wraps too until they washed our windows. We had everything hidden behind, so it will be fun to watch you discover the rest of the exhibits.
Absolutely, yeah. We're ready to talk to someone.
Yes. Did you paint the walls in there purple? Is that what I heard you?
The Fine Arts Center painted that at our request.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, and then I did the actual installation on the wall. So you'll walk into lights and lines, and then you'll find Nathan, and then you'll find me. It's very interconnected. I think you'll enjoy it. It's nice talking about something that you don't know about.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discovery. I like that aspect of it. I don't think we've ever done that before. It's nice.
Well, I will invite everyone to seek Vadas and Nathan and Ya out as the evening progresses. And once again, thank each of you for being here. And we'll look forward to seeing your works in the black and white show. And we have a lot going on. We've got Shadowbox coming up. on February 6th. I think we only have one shadow box left. Who has done shadow box before? Me and my shadow box? Oh, that is a great party. So if you don't, it doesn't matter if you don't have a shadow box. Just buy a ticket and come to the event. It's really, really fun. This is the first time we've had it in the winter when we've had the big crowd. So then we have Trashy Treasures coming up, Contain It. We also are giving out little 4" by 4" squares of paper for you to pick up at the front desk to do a flower for our Flower Power Garden Party theme this year, our 40th anniversary of the Art Center, and we're making an epic collage with what everybody turns in. So please do that, please do that. And Ronnie?
Will there be any 3D elements to what we make on the Foursquare? No?
Well, we're gonna frame this collage and we're gonna auction it at the garden party, so preferably not, but we are anticipating we're gonna get so many flowers that we're going to have to utilize them in other ways. So if you are moved to put a sculptural element to your flower, I would say, go for it. We'll find a way to use it. Enjoy the evening, guys. Thank you so much.
I'm not.
Thank you. I was curious about her palette. Look at that, huh?
I walked back there.
Oh, you walked back in there?
Yeah.
Good.
Threw it on my shoulder and I forget that.
So under their restriction.
It was,
Maybe they're for making courses or
It was great, and we can, if Ronnie hasn't already done it, as soon as
and this actually, this little baby did this is a 12 So yeah, I was really
your website right now. John.
What's your name?
I'm Barbara Boss. I've been a scientist and a doctor all my life, but I've also done art on the side. So I have my own website now. I'm doing iPhoneography that's really great.
Great. Excellent.
You want me to give you those cards?
Yes, please. Yeah, that's kind of a new field, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And so I think it'll be interesting.
What kind of science were you doing?
Neurobiology, studying the brain. And so that's the website, and it's brand new. I just opened it up.
Yes, you do. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's like that.
Very
That's
nice.
the kind of stuff.
That's kind of like the flowers have broken up and stuff, or what is?
It is totally blended images from iPhone pictures.
So digital collage kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That I've messed around with and done lots of other weird little
Love
things
it.
too. So let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Send me an email.
Well, if we see each other down there, we
Yeah.
talk about the big one.
Okay.
It's not